Studies Section 5. Hypothesis Testing. Introduction. In the present study section, you shall be introduced to how you can formulate hypotheses in your research to meet your studies objectives. The various types of hypotheses will be discussed and how you can accept or reject your stated hypothesis explained to you comprehensively. Objectives. At the end of this study section, you should be able to 1. Differentiate types of hypotheses stated in research, and 2. Explain how to state a null and alternative hypothesis in research. Pretext. 1. Mention the two types of hypotheses. 2. What is the major difference between the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis? Content. Hypothesis testing. Any research is expected to be guided with statement of hypotheses that must have been derived from literature review. A hypothesis is a tentative statement of expectation of the research. Alarakwe 2005. In other words, a hypothesis proposes a relationship between two or more variables. However, hypothesis testing compares sample data and statistics to know or estimated population parameters. In hypothesis testing, data are collected from a sample of the population which will either refute or support the hypothesis. In a nutshell, the researcher wants to be sure that he is not in error with his or her prediction. The researcher wants to prove that the null hypothesis H0 is false and that the alternate hypothesis is true. There are two main types of hypothesis statement mostly stated in the literature. These are null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. The null hypothesis H0. The null hypothesis traditionally indicate that all the population parameters in an experiment which are represented by sample statistics are equal. In other words, the null hypothesis predicts that a given independent variable will not cause a change or effect on the dependent variable. For example, a null hypothesis mistakes that there is no relationship between shoe size and sociability. There is no difference in academic performance of male and female students of University of Ibadan. All these aforementioned are examples of null hypotheses indicating no effect or relationship between variables. The alternative hypothesis H1. The alternative hypothesis specifies that a difference exists between the population parameters identified by the null hypothesis. In other words, the alternative hypothesis predicts that a given independent variable will cause a change or effect in the dependent variable. In alternative hypothesis, there are conviction, degree, and direction of the relationship between or among two or more variables as predicted by the research. Examples of alternative hypotheses are as follows. Male students will significantly record higher academic performance than female students in University of Ibadan. There will be a significant positive relationship between job satisfaction and job performance among employees of distance learning center. Self-esteem will have a significant effect on life satisfaction among retired Nigerian civil servants. However, alternative hypothesis that stated that there is a relationship between variables can either be classified into directional or non-directional hypotheses. A directional hypothesis specifies the exact nature or direction of the relationship between variables. The example that there will be a significant job performance among employees of distant learning center indicates the direction of the relationship as positive. The hypothesis suggests that the higher the job satisfaction, the higher the job performance among the employees. A non-directional hypothesis anticipates that A difference will exist between variables but does not specify the nature or direction of that difference. In other words, a non-directional hypothesis only specifies that there will be a difference between two variables or groups, but does not state which group will be higher on the dependent variable than the other. For example, a non-directional hypothesis is stated when you say that there will be a gender difference on job satisfaction. The stated hypothesis does not indicate if it is the male or the female that will be higher in job satisfaction. Statistical decision / significance. A difference between means is described as being statistically significant. That is, one mean is larger in value than another. Significance testing entails using statistical tests and probabilities to determine whether sample data can be used to accept or reject a null hypothesis involving variables. The word significance in the context of statistics refers to whether a result is statistically reliable, one that is sufficiently trustworthy so that an investigator can reasonably reject the null hypothesis. Thus, you are able to decide whether to accept or reject the null hypothesis. In social sciences, the minimum level at which you can reject H0, that is, accept HI, is at 0.05 level of significance. This suggests that the maximum measurement error should not exceed 5% so that one can be sure that the result is not due to chance. When H1 is accepted, it means that the probability of being wrong in taking this decision is less than 5%, that is, P is less than 0.5. On the other hand, when H1 is rejected or H0 is accepted, it means that the probability of being wrong in taking this decision is greater than 5%, that is, P is greater than 0.05. Inferential errors. By inferential errors, it means a situation where you accept H0 as true when you should reject it, or one where you reject H0 as false when the appropriate decision is to accept it. These errors are in two categories, type 1 and type 2 errors. Type 1 error involves rejecting the H0, that is, a researcher believes that a significant difference exists, when, in fact, there is actually no difference. In a nutshell, type 1 error is committed by rejecting H0 when it is in fact true. Type 2 error involves accepting H0, that is, a researcher believes that no significant difference does exist, when, in fact, there actually is a difference. In short, type 2 error is committed by accepting H0 when, in fact, it is false. Summary. In the study section, procedures for testing hypotheses were introduced. Two types of hypotheses were stated, which are the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. Furthermore, under the alternative hypothesis that states that there is a relationship between variables, there are directional and non-directional hypotheses. Finally, level at which a null hypothesis stated can be rejected or accepted was discussed to be 0.05 level of significance. This is the end of study section 5. Thanks for listening.